All right, we get it rolling on the Krueg Show on a Friday, and a familiar face back with us, Grant Napear in the house. Man, it is awesome talking ball with Grant. There's so many people giving you the same drivel over and over and over again, and that's why I love our live streams with Grant Napear, because Grant brings it every single time. Grant, good to see you, man.
Larry, it's awesome, man. It's so good to see how great your show's doing. I'm blown away, man. Your show, every time I'm looking, it's like boom, 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 boom. It's going up and up. More subscribers, more sponsors. I'm proud of you, man. You got a good thing going there. And this is just the beginning. This is just the tip of the iceberg, Larry.
Well, it's a lot of fun, and we should mention our title sponsor, Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. Best barbecue in the Bay Area. They're in Emeryville 5 days a week, from Wednesday through Sunday. They're also in Corte Madera, 341 Corte Madera Town Center, right there in Marin County, and they're open 7 days a week in Marin. So 11 a.m. to 8 p.m., but get there early, because when they run out of barbecue, they run out of barbecue. That's the way real barbecue places do it. Brisket, right. Pulled pork, ribs, chicken, potato salad, coleslaw, beans, brisket chili, craft beers, catering, kids menu. I mean, they got it all. Pig and a Pickle, awesome place. Try the brisket, get the potato chips, and tell them that Krueg sent you. And once again, 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. All right. I want to get right into this NBA discussion. The NBA trade deadline, some of the best shows I think we've done in the past were after the trade deadline. I think it's one of the most interesting times in the association, because now we get kind of a clearer picture, and we'll get an even more clear picture once the buyout market is complete, on who's where and what these teams look like as they turn for home and hit that second season, the NBA playoffs. So I'll just throw it to you this way. I won't lead you in any direction. The Kings made a move. The Warriors made a move. The Lakers made a move. KD was on the move. The Celtics, he made a move. I mean, there were a lot of moves around the league. What stood out to you the most at the deadline?
That everyone was trying to outdo one another. And that I think the thing that stood out to me the most is that there isn't that dominant team in the West this year. There isn't that Golden State Warriors team that we're talking about that is just clearly better than everybody else. And I think the general managers said, wait a minute, we can win it this year. It's wide open. There are 4 or 5 teams that could represent the West this year, maybe more. And so I think it was just like, hey, what can we do to keep up with the Joneses? If we get this guy, we can win a championship. The other teams like the Clippers saying, well, if we do this, we can win a championship. Larry, it all boils down to health. Look at the injuries and how that's impacted the Western Conference this year. Every single team, with the exception really of Denver and Sacramento, have had bad injuries, and everyone else has been killed with injuries. So I just think there's things up for grabs in the West, Larry. I think really there are 5 or 6 teams that can represent the conference in the NBA Finals.
All right, let's hit the Brooklyn trade. Brooklyn gets Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Cameron Johnson, a couple picks, some pick swaps, and the Suns get KD and TJ Warren. Are the Suns the new team to beat out West?
If they're healthy, I think they're as good as anyone. I mean, after all, they were the number 1 seed last year, and we know what happened. But the reality is, if Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Chris Paul are all healthy, would you want to play that team in the first round? Ayton to me is kind of the question mark on that team, because there's just something not right there, but he's so damn talented. But when you look at this team, Larry, the Phoenix Suns, again, assuming that they're healthy, who in the West do you think, no ifs, ands, or buts about it, would win 4 games from them in a playoff series? I think they got as good a chance as anybody. What about you? Do you think they have as good a chance as anybody?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's other teams that I like. I mean, I like what I've seen from Memphis. I think Dallas got better. I think the Clippers got better. I think the Warriors clearly got better, and they're going to be heard from. Sacramento got better. Heck, the Lakers got better. We don't even know if all these teams are even going to be in the playoffs. Denver's already pretty damn good. I would say Phoenix, though, they got some older. There's a lot of age there. And that's the and this is a grind. And we're not, we're talking about this, Grant. It's February the 10th. They're not actually going to decide this thing until June. So, I mean, and they're going to be playing basketball all the way through. So it's a little bit, the NBA, we don't talk about this enough, I don't think, but I think the NBA is truly a war of attrition. And I got to be a little, only my big concern with Phoenix is just, it's a volatile mix. Do they grow apart? Kind of like what we saw last year where their chemistry sucked at the end. And then also just age and injuries. Is KD going to be there? Is Paul going to be there? Is Cameron, who's going to be there at the end for Phoenix? There's a little age. So that's concern.
The biggest question with the Warriors, Larry. And if you told me right now that when the playoffs begin, that the Golden State Warriors are healthy and will remain healthy, you have that crystal ball and you go, Napes, they're going to be healthy for the whole playoffs. I'm picking them to go back to the NBA Finals again because I still think any team that has a healthy Steph Curry, okay, I'm picking that team. What did we say last year when you and I were doing shows last year during the NBA Finals? The reason why the Warriors won the NBA championship was because they had Steph Curry and the Boston Celtics did not. It really came down that simple. So you give me a healthy Warriors team, and I like what they did at the deadline. You give me a healthy Warriors team. I don't care what seed they are. To me, they have as good a chance as anyone to go back to the NBA Finals.
It's an amazing statement when you really think about it, because they're 7-21 on the road. and they're not been very good defensively, but they are going to get better defensively because they just got a great defensive player in GP2. You already kind of let the cat out of the bag, but give us why you like it. I mean, I kind of ripped it from the standpoint of I know that it improves them this year, and if it's all about this year, sure. But if they don't, it's so much about this year that if they don't win this title this year, this could go down as one of the worst trades in the history of the NBA if Wiseman goes to Detroit and finds himself.
I do like what the Warriors are doing. Larry, let's be honest. The Warriors window is closing. It just is. Okay. They've had a run. I believe that you can consider them a dynasty and what they've done. I really believe the word dynasty is appropriate when talking about this team. But Larry, we're already starting to see, as you use the word, attrition, right? We've already seen it with Clay. We're seeing it with Steph, the injuries that he's getting. These guys aren't playing forever. And I think, as you said, for the short term, this makes a lot of sense for the Warriors. And if they are able to win another championship this year, and it's the last one, that's enough to live on for a lifetime if you're a Warriors fan, right? You guys have been very spoiled in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it. They've been very spoiled. Teams don't go on runs like this. This is an aberration. It really is. I mean, you could talk about the Spurs and their 5 championships, and yes, but if you want to go back, to the yesteryear and talk about what the Lakers did or what the Celtics did, that's fine. But right now, with what we're dealing with in today's NBA and with free agency, the fact that Kevin Durant was once on the Warriors, left, and they still won a championship. Look at all the players that are moving. The Warriors dynasty is coming to an end, and I think this is their last legitimate chance to have another parade in San Francisco. And I think it could happen if they're healthy. I really do.
What's your read on Wiseman? Is he just a gigantic marshmallow and he can't get it done? And because I saw a play the other night where he's under the bucket, somebody took a 3. And he had perfect position right under the bucket for the rebound. He allowed the defensive player to just push him almost to the baseline. And then the shot went and he just jogged back to the other end. But if it hadn't gone, he was no longer in position to rebound. And it's sequences like that that make me think, and then looking at his rebounding numbers, which are paltry, and just go, you know what? This guy's not an animal. This guy's not going to challenge every shot in the lane. This guy's not going to dominate. He's not I don't, if it's in there, I'm not seeing it.
Right. Well, you can't teach that. That's one aspect that you can't teach. You either have that or you don't. Jerry Reynolds always used to say, when I did the games with him, don't give up on bigs and don't give up on point guards too soon. And there have been numerous examples of those positions. Look at Steve Nash, for example. Look at Chauncey Billups. Look at the teams that gave up on Chauncey Billups, right? I think he needed a change of scenery. And sometimes a change of scenery will wake somebody up. I mean, you just, think about the change that he's going to be undertaking. He's going to a team that's young, rebuilding, that's on their way up. Maybe he finds himself there. But I didn't have a problem with the Warriors moving him, Larry. I really didn't.
GP2 is nice, but I mean, you don't have a problem dealing a 7'1", 22-year-old player for a 30-year-old defensive guard. That I mean, I love GP2, and I think he's one of the most dominating on the ball defenders that nobody
Yep.
talks about. I mean, you actually broadcast for the Kings when they had Randy Brown, and
Yep.
Randy Brown was in a lot of ways kind of like a GP2
That's
guy.
exactly right.
He's physically dominant, on ball defender, long arms, you could not get around him. I think I see similarities there, but I mean, this is like the high end potential of Wiseman and then the limitations of a defensive rotation player guard. I don't know.
Well, Larry,
I know what you're saying. I like it, but
Yep.
long term, it could look bad. It could look bad.
Larry, last year, when you and I were doing the shows, when the playoffs started, I asked you for a couple of keys, and you said Gary Payton. And we talked about that, and you were spot on. Look at what he did in the postseason last year and his ability to not stop, but neutralize the other team's guards. I thought that was key last year in the playoffs. Now you have that back. I like that move again for this reason, what I just said a couple of minutes ago. The Warriors window is closing. I'm sorry, Warrior fans, but it is. It's closing. All right. And so you need to go out and try to win one more before that thing is shut. I could see this Warriors team looking significantly different next year. And again, just look at Steph Curry. You want to talk about attrition. You talk about a guy that's been playing into June almost every year. It does add up, and we're starting to see it. So I'm okay with it, Larry. I think it's all in now. Don't worry about next year. Try to win it this year. And I think this gives them a better chance of doing that this season. Now, you got to make the playoffs first. That's not a given, okay? I mean, let's just call it the way it is. I think the Warriors will be, but that's not a given, especially with how they played on the road. They keep on having what I would consider alarming losses where you're like, wait a minute. How'd they lose that game to Portland? Or, we can go on and on. So they can't afford too many more of those, Larry. They really can't.
It's interesting. The deal was originally Wiseman for Sadiq Bey. Then Sadiq Bey got moved for number ones or for number twos. And then the number twos got moved for GP2. There is a report out right now, according to Shams Charania of The Athletic, the 4-team trade that sent Payton to the Warriors is now in jeopardy due to a failed physical. Payton did not make his Blazers debut, of course, until January the 2nd. He had off-season core surgery and reportedly failed his physical.
Oh, boy.
And the injury is expected to keep him sidelined for 3 months, placing the trade in jeopardy altogether. So that really...
All right, well, that changes everything around.
That changes everything around. Let me ask you originally, though, what would you have thought if it had just been James Wiseman in a trade for Sadiq Bey? Because I really like
Bey.
I like Sadiq Bey, and I thought Sadiq Bey would have been a really nice. I was thinking maybe Wiseman to Detroit for Sadiq Bey and Nerlens Noel, because they're going to buy out Noel anyway. To me, I like that deal. What would you think of that? I mean, I'm surprised they moved off.
I like Bey. I like Bey's upside. I would have been okay with that. Nerlens Noel, there's a reason why he's been on so many teams and still is, able to go to other teams. So I'm not crazy about Noel, but I'm with you. I would have liked to have seen that. That's interesting news by Shams Charania. I didn't know that. I mean,
I didn't know it either. It's just breaking now. So we're as we go live, we're getting information as we speak here. What did you think overall of what the Lakers got done? They got Rui Hachimura, and then they wound up getting Mo Bamba. The Lakers, they really did a nice job if you think about it. I mean, they get D'Lo, they move off of Westbrook. Westbrook and Darvin Ham supposedly had a really ugly altercation the other night, verbal altercation behind the scenes, and that had reached a critical point, and yet they still found a way to get D'Lo and a decent deal out of it. They brought in Vanderbilt, who's a nice player out of Utah. What do you think of what the Lakers did? Are the Lakers going to make the playoffs?
Right now, I would say no. Larry, when I watched them play the other night when LeBron surpassed Kareem, as I was watching that game, I was thinking to myself, wow, the Lakers are horrible. They're just horrible. Now, I know they have a new mix of players, but defensively, they were terrible, a lack of effort. They didn't look right. They have put themselves in a big-time hole in this Western Conference the Lakers are going to have to play very, very well. Now, if they get into even the 10th spot and they're in the play-in and they're healthy, I'm going to pick them to be that team like New Orleans did last year when New Orleans won the play-in and they got in as the 8th seed. And if you're the 8th seed and you're Denver being the number 1 seed and you have to play a Lakers team with a healthy LeBron and AD and the rest of the guys you just talked about, that would be one hell of a first-round matchup. But right now, based on what I've seen from the Lakers, based on the uncertainty around Anthony Davis, who gets hurt all the time, I'm going to say no, they will not make the playoffs. You think they're going to get in?
I don't think so. I don't think they're going to get in. I don't. I mean, I'm looking at the West. I think it's just too competitive. You know, and it's not like it's not like they couldn't get in if they got on a run, but I don't see it. They're going to play the Warriors on Saturday. The Lakers are 25-31. You know, they're behind OKC. They're behind Utah. Those teams.
I like OKC. I'll keep an eye on them.
Oh,
they're
and listen, Sanders special.
Think about think about they had their guy go down in the game up in Seattle, the whatever you call it in the summer league, Holmgren. They get him back next year. They're stacked with draft picks. I'll tell you right now, Oklahoma City is going to be really good if they draft well for a long time. So will the Jazz. The Jazz are going to be a really good team in the near future if they draft well. But here are the teams, Larry, in the West that I think are going to be ascending real soon. Phoenix is going to be going north. All right. The Clippers are going to be going up. And as soon as Zion Williamson goes, remember, Larry, the injuries that the Pelicans had, and when those injuries occurred, they were the top team in the West. All right. So why would I think that when Williamson comes back, again, if he's healthy, that this New Orleans team can't surpass a couple of teams? I think Sacramento's going to drop a couple of spots. The Kings are currently 3rd. I think they're a good team, Larry. I don't think they're a very good team. I think they are a team that has benefited greatly by the other injuries on other teams. The Kings have not had any injuries. They have the fewest games missed to injury. So they've been healthy all year. People say, well, Grant, what about Sabonis and his thumb? I don't count that. He only missed 1 game. So to me, that's not a significant injury. I'm talking about games that were missed due to injury. I think the Kings are, as I said, a good team because I know we have a lot of Kings fans that are watching this stream as well. And
they're leading the Pacific.
Yeah. I mean, gee, Grant's negative. No, I'm not being negative. I'm being objective and I'm being realistic. The Kings are 31-23, but they have been wildly inconsistent, particularly over the last 4 to 6 weeks. They are a team that plays absolutely no defense. Yeah. So on nights when the 3 is not falling, which has happened a lot, they struggle to win games. And they have lost games to a lot of bad teams this year, which is concerning to me. So I think the Kings will end up around 6. I think Phoenix is going to be one of those teams that will be behind Denver and Memphis. And I'm going to include Memphis because I think when they get Steven Adams back, they'll be right back where they were. Then I think Phoenix and the Clippers will battle for those spots. I'm not ruling out New Orleans if they can get healthy. And then the unknown with all of this is Dallas. Now, Luka is not playing tonight in Sacramento. He's expected to join the team and play tomorrow. When I say join the team, I mean be on the floor. So they won their game against the Clippers the other night with Kyrie, with no Luka. But tomorrow is probably, because it's a back-to-back, 2 home games consecutively in Sacramento, Larry. Tomorrow's the first chance we'll probably see Luka and Kyrie on the floor together. I'm a little skeptical, Larry. I know a lot of people think this is going to be great. Well, they said that about Kyrie and his other stops, and it wasn't great. Kyrie is a different animal. He can be a real nuisance. You can't depend on the guy. He's very quirky. You don't know if he's going to show up from game to game. I'm skeptical about that. And there's one basketball.
You're talking about personality. What about the actual basketball? He plays on the ball. Luka plays on, but Luka and him both play on the ball. Which guy would you rather, if they're both on the floor at the same time in the 4th quarter of a close game? Who's on the ball?
There you go. I talked about this the other day. That's a big time decision for Jason Kidd. But to me, it's Luka's team. It's not Kyrie's team. So I'm going to defer to the guy, Luka. But I don't know if that's going to sit well with Kyrie. I know he said he doesn't care, but we know that's not the case. But talent wise, wow. I mean, that's going to give you headaches as a defender. That's for sure.
Yeah. What did you think of? I mean, Sacramento got Kessler Edwards.
Yeah.
Just a marginal, but another young player, but they've made some decent moves. I will say this: if Keegan Murray gets into an offensive flow, I mean, the Kings offensively are really, a tough team to defend. I mean,
they are.
They play fast, they get out and then run, and they got talent.
They get but Larry, all right, what happens in the playoffs? Yeah, they can score. They're the number one scoring team in the league.
Yeah.
But when the playoffs begin, and I know fans are going like, playoffs? What's playoffs? The Kings haven't made the
Yeah.
playoffs
Welcome.
since 16 years. Right. But, okay, so I ask you, how are the Kings going to win games on the nights when their shots are not falling? This game has turned into one thing in the NBA, Larry. It's true of almost every team in the league. If you make threes, you're probably going to win. If you miss threes, you're probably going to lose. Okay. Teams that are really good, that have off shooting nights, find other ways to win. Sacramento can't win that way. They don't have that makeup. That's not who they are. They're just going to roll the ball out and say, we're going to outscore you. That's fine. But when the three's not falling and defense ratchets up a little bit in the postseason, that could be an issue for Sacramento. Again, I like their future. They have done a great job this year. They are set up well for the next several years. But right now, they are a very inconsistent team that plays horrible defense.
Yeah, they play no defense even, and they do play a fast pace, and they do get up and down. And Fox is he's got the ball in his hands. To me, the one thing I notice with them is there's just a lot of players on this team of similar level of talent, and so you just you don't have a defined situation where I would like only certain guys to shoot the ball. And yet I see a lot of shots going up from guys who shouldn't be shooting the ball. Like, when you get to the playoffs, I'd like to see Herder take more shots. I'd like to see Malik Monk take a higher percentage of shots. You know what I'm saying? I'd like to see the guys who are a little bit more proven, scorers take more shots and not. And if Keegan Murray can get into a role offensively, and he has recently,
Yep.
I could see him taking a number of shots, but to me, they just have to be real clear with who they want taking their shots in the playoffs, because from night to night,
it's going to be Fox.
Sequence,
it's going to be Fox. It's going to be De'Aaron Fox. I think the number one, they have a stat called the hero stat, which is fourth quarter numbers and everything. He's like number one in all the categories. So I think it's going to be De'Aaron Fox. In the big games, Larry, lately, in all the close games that have come down to the final possessions, he's had the ball in his hands.
All the discussion we're talking about the West, you're not talking at all about Golden State. Where do you put them in this thing at the end? Are they, where are the Warriors in this? And by the way, there's one of the big questions now, if this deal is off, is can the Warriors get somebody out of the buyout market? And now, if you're really ring chasing, you're probably going to join the Suns before you join the Warriors. But the names that are being thrown out are Dwayne Dedmon, Gordon Hayward, Serge Ibaka, who's nothing like the Serge Ibaka from even 2 years ago because of the back, Kevin Love, Nerlens Noel, and one of the articles I saw said Rashawn Holmes. Are the Kings going to buy out Holmes?
They might. I wouldn't take Dedmon. He's a different cat. He was in Sacramento. Very bizarre. Didn't really work with Miami. I worry about guys, Larry, that you look at, you go, wow, and you look at it athletically, and you look at all the things that they can do when they're playing well. And then you say, well, why does he keep on going to different teams? How come nobody wants that individual? That always concerns me. Right. When you say we haven't talked about the Warriors, I did talk about the Warriors. I said, if they're healthy, they're my pick to come out of the West. I still believe that.
At what seed do you think they'll be in the playoffs? Because when you were going through the seeds,
tell me when Steph Curry's coming back, and I'll answer that question.
Well, that's not clear. And right now, Golden State is the 9 seed, 28 and 27. They're 2 wins behind Phoenix, though.
If you tell me that Steph Curry is on the floor for the final 20 games, okay, the final 20 games,
what will their seed be?
I think they're going to be 6 or 7. Big difference. 7, you got to go in the play-in. 6 is 6. I think if you had to hold it to me right now, I'm probably going to say 7, because I think Phoenix is going up in the standings. I think that New Orleans with Zion is going to be difficult. I think the Clippers are going to still be good. And how could we haven't even really talked that much about the Clippers, Larry?
They got Eric Gordon. Yeah, I like what the Clippers did at the deadline, and we haven't really talked a lot about them all year in a lot of ways.
That's right.
I think that they've been kind of the team that is kind of just they're doing their thing and playing their game, but it's like nobody
why?
Talks about them
because you don't ever know if Paul George or Kawhi Leonard are playing. That's why. But if
But
you
they did
have
add
those
Bones Highland, Eric Gordon, Mason Plumlee. I mean,
Plumlee, that's right.
that's three good rotation
Yep.
players at the
Yep.
deadline picked up by the Clippers.
Again, they're going to be a really tough out. So I think the Clippers, the Suns, and again, I have to include the Mavs now, and New Orleans, they're all going to be elevating themselves in the standings. That's without being able to forecast injuries. They're just too good. They have too much talent. The Warriors, probably 7. I'm going to say 7. What do you think?
You know, I was banking on the Warriors getting kind of an energy kick from this trade, and you know, their defense is bad, and they need a really good teeth of the defense player. And Peyton, you know, the downside of the long-term risk with trading Wiseman away is the upside obvious gain of not just getting a good rotation player, but like one of the NBA's most dominating on the ball defenders we've seen in decades. So I don't know. They've lost something. Let me ask you this, because you know NBA rules better than I do. In a situation like this, and Shams, for those who don't know, is reporting, Shams Charania of The Athletic, that the trade is in serious jeopardy due to the failed physical. Does the league, in a situation like this was a 4-team trade that also involved Kevin Knox, James Wiseman, and Sadiq Bey, and a bunch of picks. This deal would, you know, let's say the GP2 part falls apart, would they give these teams any kind of, you know, 15-minute window to reconfigure the trade, or would they literally send all of these people and all of these assets back to the original and you start from scratch? I mean, the deadline has passed, but you're involving so many people and so many teams here. I just makes you wonder if they would reconfigure it involving something else, or, you know, involving just the components that are in it now, which is more picks, or if
I don't know. I don't know the specific answer to that question. I believe it would be you just go back to your previous team. But I have a question for you.
That's a hard one for James Wiseman, isn't it?
I know. Oh boy, if Gary Payton is this bad off, why would the Blazers make a deal thinking that he would pass a physical? They know better than anybody, right? I mean, that to me is a little puzzling, is it not?
Yeah. I mean, it's very puzzling. You know, and the other thing, I mean, I know he hasn't played a lot this year, but he'd been playing recently, wasn't it? I mean, I haven't checked the Blazers. I haven't watched every single game from the Blazers. But you know, I mean, the Warriors, they just beat the Warriors the other night, 125. Right. And Peyton played 22 minutes in that game and scored 9 points and had 3 rebounds. So, I mean, he just played. That was their most recent game was against the Warriors, and he played.
And the Warriors, and I'm not saying the Warriors are going to do this, but they could always waive the physical. I mean, you can do that. You can waive the physical. Right.
If you just want to make the deal anyway.
Right. They can just make the deal anyway. I'm not saying they will, but I'm saying a team can do that anytime they want.
Very interesting. Let's talk about the East before we let you go, man. The East, I think, is incredible. Nobody really talks about, who's the Brooklyn Nets are in New York City. One of the, they're in the Mecca. They're not the Knicks, but they're in New York City, and they just tanked their season when literally weeks ago they were being discussed as a title contender. In some ways, this is one of the most dramatic moves in the history of the league. I mean, not to be melodramatic about it, but when was the last time you remembered a title contender this late in the campaign, or at least an Eastern Conference championship finals contender, basically give up the team in the middle of the year? That's what they did.
Crazy. And I'm not surprised. I've been talking about this for months and months and months, that this was a train wreck. And, think about the trade they made with Philadelphia. And, are we still waiting for Ben Simmons to play, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? You knew that Kyrie Irving, think about this, it was a year ago that when the season began after the pandemic, or would that be 2 years ago? A year, but when he comes back and the season starts right before Christmas or on Christmas Day, right? And in January, Kyrie just leaves and comes back after 10 days and said, I just needed a break. I needed some time off. Took 3 leaves of absence that year. You knew right then and there that this was going to be a train wreck. You had the saga this summer with Durant and the Nets kissing his ass, getting on the plane, flying all the way across the country to appease Kevin Durant, to get him to come back. This thing was a train wreck waiting to happen, and it happened. I can't remember the last time I saw moves of this magnitude, but Brooklyn didn't have a choice. They really knew that this was going nowhere. They had to hit the reset button. And I think they've gotten some pretty good players back. I think the Nets could still be a pretty decent team. They don't have the star anymore, but they can still get that. And as far as New York, I mean, Larry, I'm from New York. I have a very good understanding of that market. And, you know, Brooklyn might be only a couple miles from Manhattan, where at the Barclays Center where the Nets play, but they might as well be playing over in, Europe or something. I mean, they're always going to be the secondary team. They're always going to be looked upon as the other team in New York, no matter what happens. Same thing when the Nets made the NBA Finals when Jason Kidd was the coach, and they went to back-to-back finals, or maybe it was Jason Kidd playing and Byron Scott the coach. I'm sorry, when Jason Kidd was playing for the Nets, they didn't really get the pub. It's like that. They're not the Knicks. They're not playing at Madison Square Garden. So, but I'm not, Larry. They had to do this. They were a mess. They were an absolute mess. They had to hit the reset button.
It's amazing that Durant chose to go away from the Warriors and join Kyrie and this
Sure
whole.
is.
I mean, isn't that amazing?
It is.
By the way, the Nets, you're right about the Nets. The Nets are a 5 seed right now. And this is their starting 5. Dinwiddie, Cam Thomas, Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Nick Claxton. That's not
Good
bad.
team.
And you have Ben
bad.
Simmons, you have Seth Curry, you got Cam Johnson, you got, Royce O'Neal, you got, they have some decent players there. What do you think of Boston? Boston got Muscala. I think that in some ways, that he's like a 40% 3-point shooter, and he's a big man who can stretch the floor. I thought that was a very kind of quiet, nobody talks about it kind of a move that makes them a lot better come playoff time.
I think it's Boston and Milwaukee. You talked about this a couple of minutes ago. I don't have any confidence in James Harden when the playoffs start. I know Philly's 3rd right now in the East, and as long as Joel Embiid continues to play the way he is, you always have to factor them. But I can't take a team with James Harden. I think it comes down to Boston and Milwaukee, and maybe home court decides this. Although last year in the playoffs, Celtics won in Milwaukee, Milwaukee won in Boston. So maybe I'm making too much out of that. But to me, they're the 2 best teams in the East. I like that move for Boston. I'd probably give the edge to Boston. I mean, they're the same team as they were last year. They might even be a little bit better. And I think Boston probably comes out of the East.
We haven't even seen Jay Crowder play. He's now going to Milwaukee. What do you think of Crowder to Milwaukee?
Tremendous move for them. I think he helps them. A very valuable role player, and I think he's going to help them a lot. So I think Milwaukee just got better. I like Milwaukee. I mean, as long as you have Giannis Antetokounmpo, you're going to be in pretty good shape. You're going to be in every game. I mean, he is a special player. Larry, I announced the NBA for 32 years, so I've been blessed to see great players courtside. I can't really remember a player that gave me the feeling that Giannis Antetokounmpo gave me on drives to the basket, how graceful, powerful, even Michael Jordan. I went through some great era, Kobe, LeBron. I announced when Kareem was playing, but there's something in watching Antetokounmpo in person right in front of you that takes your breath away. He's like Wayne Gretzky on a basketball court. I mean, you do not want to turn your head. Dominique Wilkins was like that too. What Nick was able to do in his prime, you were just like, wow. But Antetokounmpo has grace, power. He has the athleticism. He has everything. He's a marvel to watch in person. TV does not do him justice.
Yeah. Oh no. And I saw a little video of this little girl at an autograph session the other day who did some little story about him, and he was so touched. He came across the table and he hugged her and took pictures. I mean, he's just a golden person, man. He's like a Steph Curry. Couple last ones before you go. Bob Myers is a very accomplished general manager.
Yep.
And he is operating in a lame duck situation at the end of his deal. He's a free agent at the end of the year. You're tied. You're connected in NBA circles. You know all kinds of people around the league.
Yep.
What are you hearing about what's going on behind the scenes there? Is this do the Warriors, are they getting ready to break up? I've heard rumors of Brent Barry coming to the Warriors to replace Bob Myers. Is Bob Myers' feet, you think, being held to the fire by
You know,
Joe
Larry,
Lacob on some of these picks? You think Lacob's trying to move his kids in? What are you hearing about the Warriors and Myers?
there's always things that go on behind the scenes that the fans and media don't know about. It happens in every organization. I can tell you firsthand, being behind the walls of the Kings organization, that there were a lot of things that would be misreported, or the fans had no idea about what was going on when they thought they knew everything that was going on. So I'm just going to start with that. There are always things that go on within the walls of an organization that you think you know about that you really don't. I don't know specifically what's going on behind the scenes. What I do know is, for whatever reason in pro sports, I saw it with Rick Adelman and Jeff Petrie, and they had their great run together, 8 straight playoff appearances. Sometimes it's just time to go in a different direction. My feeling with everything in life is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What is it that Bob Myers has done that wouldn't have people salivating over giving him a new deal and keeping him there to run the franchise for the next several years, right? I mean,
Right.
That's puzzling to me. You and I both know this, Larry. If Bob Myers is not with the Warriors next year, he's going to have people lining up this offseason to give him a mega deal to come run their basketball team. That's going to happen.
Where do you think Draymond Green is next year? Do you think he opts in and stays here? Do you think he opts out and goes somewhere else? There's a lot of speculation that he's going to try to join LeBron. He's buddies with LeBron. He seems like he can never get enough love directed towards LeBron. Is he going to be a Laker? Is he going to be a Warrior? What do you think's going on there?
It seems like Draymond can't ever get enough love for himself. Forget about LeBron. Draymond is, his new media BS and all this crap, all of his antics, and he's a hell of a player. I acknowledge that. And if I were a coach, I would have loved to have him on my team. So let me put that out there. But he's a headache. You have to deal with all of the extracurricular nonsense, him having a huge head and a huge ego. I will say he will not be with the Warriors. I believe he will also be on the move, which gives this team a different look. Larry, you and I haven't talked in a while. Do you feel that the incident that happened in training camp with Poole has had a adverse effect on this team? Do you think that's part of the reason why this team? Okay, you don't think it has anything to do with it, right?
No, I don't. I really don't.
Okay.
I really don't. I think the Warriors have backslid because they're getting older, because they had really valuable, sometimes you win and you don't realize why you won. I think they didn't do a very good analysis of why they won. And they just assumed that, firsthand, because you watched him. Bielitsa is a really good basketball player and helps you in a lot of ways. Otto Porter had a terrific year, played defense, rebounded 45% from three. And then Peyton was phenomenal. They kissed those guys off, and Damian Lee, who was a valuable role player and related to Steph. They kissed those 4 guys off and said, Kuminga, Moody, Wiseman will do it. And only Kuminga can do it. And the other Wiseman and Moody can't do it. So now you've got not as good of a basketball team. So I think that's why the Warriors aren't as good, is because they're not as good. They're not as good because they're not as
deep. They're not as deep. They're role players. I think you make a very good point with that. Again, not to contradict
those guys
myself,
got beyond that, I think. I know it's awkward, and it's always awkward, and it always lingers there. And I'm sure Draymond lost support from some within the organization. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But he's played phenomenally. Poole has been a little up and down, but they've played well off each other, like in the 2-man game.
I understand.
And I just don't, the way the NBA can be a huge dramatic circus. There's a lot of dramatic things that happen. That would ruin my workplace and your workplace and other people's.
But not a lot.
That wouldn't worry. I don't think that's ruined their workplace.
Well, as long as Draymond's playing well, as you said he has. Listen, as I said, if I'm a coach in the NBA and you say I can have Draymond Green, I'm going to pick him up at the airport. Okay. I mean, every coach in the league, even though the guy can be a real headache at times. Yes, that's right. Thank you. Plain and simple. He's a winner. And I acknowledge that. He drives me crazy. I've criticized him a lot for his behavior, for his actions. I thought the episode last offseason with Kendrick Perkins and the racial slur he used was despicable. I think it's unfortunate. that it had to take a conversation with Adam Silver and Joe Dumars to make Draymond realize that he was wrong. And then he came out with an apology. But we live in a society of double standards. It's a hypocritical society. No fine, no suspension, no anything. It just doesn't make sense to me. And Draymond keeps on putting his foot in his mouth with these type of things. You know, whether it's when he got ejected in the game 2 at Memphis, and after the game laughed about it and said, I'm not really too worried about it. I'm making $25 million this year. You know, there's just certain things that I wish Draymond would be able to filter a little bit better than he does. You know, again, the episode at Boston with the fans when his wife came out, and then he's sitting, you know, at the podium with his son and uses swear words. You know, it doesn't add up to me. You can't have it both ways. You can't have your family upset that the Boston fans are chanting, you know, F you Draymond or whatever it was, and then at the post-game press conference, you know, be sitting there with your son, you know, next to you or on your lap and cursing. You know, I'm sorry, it doesn't add up to me that way. So again, Draymond drives me crazy, and when I mean he drives me crazy, he bothers me with his actions because it turns me off. Okay, it turns me off. But if I'm just looking at it from a pure basketball perspective, Larry, he makes you a better team because you hit it right on the head. He's a winner. And after all, that's why you're playing the games, right? That's why the Warriors are charging the ticket prices that they're charging, because they win, because fans want to go watch a winning product. And fans will always, Larry, turn their head the other way when something bothers them about an individual on their team. It's always happened in the history of sports. Okay, it will always continue to happen. And I guarantee you, there are a lot of Warrior fans that go to the games that aren't really fond of Draymond Green, the person and his actions and his new media and all of that. But when the ball is tipped up and he does something good, they're on their feet giving him a standing ovation. I firmly believe that.
3 quick hitters before we let you go. Sacramento goes how far in the playoffs before they get dumped?
They will not win a first-round matchup because they are so bad defensively.
Wow. No chance they get out of the first round.
Well, I wouldn't say there's no chance, but I'm giving you my prediction. I don't think they will.
You know, that could be, since we already talked about it, the Kings are in the 3 hole. Warriors could be angling for that 6th spot.
Haven't we been
it could
waiting
be
for that?
Warriors Kings. How awesome would Warriors Kings be?
The Kings and the Warriors have never been good in the same year. Never. It would be the first time that they would both be playoff teams in the same year. It would be epic. It would be unbelievable. Ticket prices would be going through the roof. It would be one of the great things. I don't know about from the Warriors' perspective. It would be one of the great things in the history of Sacramento sports. And I think really, Larry, Northern California, it would be unfreaking believable. I would love to see that.
I would love to see it. I'd try to go to every single game.
Yep.
And because, you know, the bottom line is the Kings have fans in the Bay and the Warriors have fans in Sacramento, and it's all interspersed. And, you know, like in my family, I'm a Warrior fan, lifelong Warrior fan. My brother's a judge in Sacramento. Damn him. He's a Kings fan. Yeah. Anyway, LeBron passed Kareem.
Yep.
And then, you know, it was a great night and Kareem was there. Great. And it was awesome to see. And then he said he was the best. And it's like, why do we have to go to the you're the best?
I agree.
When to me that took all the shine. He had plenty of time to think about this. He had years to think about this. How do I handle this when this happens? What do I say? How do I? And instead, you wind up this is like the story of LeBron James. You wind up admiring his career and disliking him at the same time. I don't think he's anything close to Jordan. I saw him. Jordan was better. It's not a good comparison. They do different things, but the game's offense and defense, and Jordan was better on offense and Jordan was better on defense.
Okay. I announced LeBron James' first ever game. All right. I was blessed to announce his first basket and the first 25 points of his career. During that broadcast, my partner, guy that you know very well, Jerry Reynolds, said during the game, I think barring injury, we may be talking about this guy when it's all said and done as the greatest player in the history of the game. I had Jerry Reynolds on my YouTube show the other day, 2 days ago, and I asked him, who's the best player, and he said LeBron. So there are those out there that think LeBron's the best player. Here's my take about this, Larry. You think it's Michael. I think it's Bill Russell. You think it's LeBron. Somebody else thinks it's Wilt Chamberlain. All right, we can go on and on. We're never going to find the answer to the question because the answer does not exist. It's subjective. Here's what I would say about LeBron, and I would hope you would agree with this. If you're talking about the greatest player in the history of basketball and you don't have LeBron James in the conversation, then I can't be part of the conversation. He's in the conversation as one of the greatest players in the history of the NBA. I mean, look at the joke. Was it last week? Dan Orlovsky of ESPN didn't have Joe Montana as one of his top 5 quarterbacks. Let me tell you something. If your job is to cover the National Football League, if your job is to cover the National Football League, and I don't care if you're 20 years old or you're 70 years old, okay, and you don't have enough of awareness to do a little homework and find out more about Joe Montana, and he's not one of your top 5 because he didn't grow up in the era that you grew up with, then you're delusional, okay?
Right.
So
there was TV. Go watch it.
I know. You can't have a conversation about greatest quarterbacks in the history of the game if Joe Montana's not in there. Now, Larry, you could make an argument that he's not the greatest. You could say it's Tom Brady. You might even pick another name or two. But if you're not including Joe Montana in the conversation, then you're an idiot, period.
Right. The guy in the chat here, 916, says Kobe's better than LeBron. Where do you put Kobe then?
Well, if I had to win one game on one shot, I'm taking Kobe Bryant. I'm taking Michael 1 and I'm taking Kobe 2. I've never seen somebody rise to the occasion like Kobe did. Complete all-around game. No, I probably would take LeBron, but it would be a conversation. I just think LeBron, think about the different teams he's been on, the NBA Finals. Yeah, I know he's lost some. I get that. But I can't personally put LeBron any worse than 2 on my list. I'm okay if you go Michael 1, but I would go LeBron 2. Again, it's subjective, but that's how I see it.
I mean, okay. All I'd say to the people that put LeBron in front of Michael, there's an entire Hall of Fame career resume in the net difference between Jordan's accomplishments and LeBron. Jordan has 2 more. He has 2 more rings. He has 2 more Finals MVP. He has 1 more Defensive Player of the Year award. He has 1 more regular season MVP. He's got 4 all defensive first team deals. He's got 9 scoring titles and 3 steals titles, more than what LeBron has.
I'm okay with that. As I said, I'm okay with you or anyone else saying that Michael's the greatest player of all time. That doesn't bother me. I'm very close with Scott Pollard, who played in the NBA for over 10 years. And I've asked Scott this question. He thinks Wilt Chamberlain's the greatest player of all time. So, there's a difference of opinion.
That's interesting.
I know, but I'm okay with you saying Michael's the greatest player of all time. But I'm going to have LeBron second on that list, but that's just me.
You did this for so many damn years. Do you ever sit there and go, I was front and center for all of this, for every night, for decades? I mean, if they have discussions like this about the greatest players of, the last 30 years, they'd be idiots not to call guys like yourself who actually you weren't just at the game. Yeah. You weren't just having a beer with some buddies. You're sitting there courtside engaged, looking at stats, calling every play. I would imagine you have a unique perspective on. If I say to you, your all-time 5, who's in Grant Napier's all-time 5? Not necessarily all-time that you watched. Let's say.
See, that's a big difference because that would preclude Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell and players like that.
Sure.
I mean, obviously Michael's on my list, LeBron's on my list, Kobe's on my list. Bird's on my list, right? I mean, those are easy. Wouldn't you just say right off the and Kareem? I announced when Kareem was playing. So to me, it's Kareem, Magic, LeBron, Kobe, and Michael. Those are my 5. And I'm leaving a lot of great players off the list.
Yeah. The one guy that I have to have on the list, and I blame you for it because I was your intern and I was out at these NBA games and I saw too much of it up close. Hakeem Olajuwon, Grant.
Special.
Yeah, very special. I remember seeing him in Sacramento in the lunchroom or whatever before the game, and Hakeem, super sweet guy, telling stories, probably wasn't more than 6'9" and change, maybe 6'10", but wow, what a player! What an incredible offensive player, defensive player, runner, jumper. I mean, I know there are people, you don't view him as the best, but to me, he's close. He's very close. All right, Grant. Hey, tell people if they want to check out your YouTube channel, where they can find it. How's it going? Think you enjoying it?
I hope to be like Larry Krueger someday. If you don't like that with Grant Napear, I do a show Monday and Fridays with Sean Salisbury at 3 Pacific on Wednesday. We talk Kings and NBA with Jerry Reynolds. I also do now halftime and post-game shows with the Kings. I'll be on tonight at halftime and post-game with the Kings and the Mavs. My podcast can be found on my website, ifyoudon'tlikethat.com. So I'm like you, I'm staying busy. All right, I got one final question for you.
Yeah.
What's the final score? Who's winning on Sunday?
I like 35-31 Chiefs.
Okay.
And the MVP is going to be the rookie running back, Isaiah Pacheco. Who's going to get 4 touchdowns.
Wow, look at you. Wow. All right.
35-31. I think it's high scoring, Grant. I don't think anybody can stop Mahomes, and I don't think anybody really can. I don't think the Chiefs defense can stop Philly either.
All right. I like Philly 27-24. I think they've been disrespected or underappreciated most of the year. Even Deebo Samuel, yesterday or the day before, talking about how they would have won by double digits if Brock Purdy had been playing. I don't agree with that. They may have won. I don't think it would have been double digits, but I think Philadelphia is going to win. I think this is going to be I think a lot of people are going to have a different opinion of Jalen Hurts after this game. And I'm not minimizing, but I don't think he's gotten the credit that he deserves this year. I think the guy's a marvelous talent, and I think he's going to have a really big game on Sunday.
I think you're absolutely right. And I just can't picture Mahomes and Reed losing a second Super Bowl together. That to me seems unlikely, but I agree. Hey, buddy, good to see you. Happy New Year. Great. And hopefully we'll get a chance to stream together throughout the year. Good luck to you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Take care, bud. Bye.
The great Grant Napear in the house, stopping by on the Krueg show. And that was good stuff. Grant, what I love about Grant, he just brings it. He's real. He's real. He brings it. He's honest. He's unbiased. He brings it. He brings energy. That's what I always loved about his radio show. He brings energy. He brings opinions. He's a classic New York sports fan, and he brings it to the air, and it's awesome. So he's welcome here anytime. All right, let's do this. Let's pay a couple bills. First, we'll get a word from our sponsor, Telmetrics, and then we'll pick it up with some final thoughts after this on the Krueg Show. And thanks to Tony Cassera and the good people at Cassera's Italian Menswear. They are housing the Krueg Show t-shirts, and they're a proud sponsor of the show as well. The Krueg Show t-shirt, the Krueg Show podcast t-shirt is available there at their store in Dublin. Their address is 7372 San Ramon Road in Dublin, California. And go see Tony Cassera and get yourself a Krueg Show t-shirt and support the show. And special thanks to our sponsor, New York Style Italian Sausage. That's right, NewYorkStyleSausage.com is their website. Phenomenal product, whether it's the breakfast sausage, the Italian mild, the Italian spicy, the chorizo. You cannot go wrong with New York Style Italian Sausage. Once again, NewYorkStyleSausage.com. Often imitated, never equaled.
So New York Style Sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never going to deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it. Hands down.
Hey, do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
Hey Pasquale, Dan Cochimilio here for the Krueg Show. Just picked up for the very first time some of your New York style Italian sausage here at Sam's Club in Arizona. My wife just cooked it and I'm about to take a bite. Man, this is good. Pasquale, when you winked and said you guaranteed we love it, you're right. This stuff is absolutely amazing. Best sausage I've ever tasted.
All right, welcome back to the Krueg Show. Larry Krueger with you on a Friday afternoon. MF says Bob Fitzgerald should come on. We can get Fitz on. Fitz has been on. Jeffrey, and we'll get him again. Because Fitz is a buddy. Fitz is like family. We go way back. Mark Graves says, love Dan, but how long does he take to eat dinner? LOL. Yeah. He takes a bite. We're waiting. 1,000. 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000. I get a kick out of that because you could literally, run 5 NBA plays, out of bounds plays in the amount of time that Danny takes to say it's good. It's good. All right. Jose Pepe says, great show, Larry. I see you all the time from Orlando, Florida. All right. You know what? I've been in a lot of places. I've never gone to Orlando. I got to get out to Disney World at some point. Jim Mole says, Danny did that in one take. He didn't have to, but he did. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. You might want to go into that one and shorten it up. BV50, Larry and Grant get great speakers. Thank you. Let's see. Do we have, can I give myself applause? Let's see. Let's see. Studio audience. Thank you. A loop. But no, thanks everybody who's in the chat. We got this one from John Finch. You're a bad A. Doing a live read right now. Good job, Larry. John Finch. I'm ripping the sleeves off of every t-shirt I get from you. Oh my gosh. You get this one. Cody, are you watching the Super Bowl at Mark Willard's? So I can have his lentil dip? Call up Willard and Dibs and tell him that Krug says his lentil dip sucks. I've never actually tried his lentil dip, but I want to eat his lentil dip. Mark always talked about making lentil dip. What are you making? What are you guys making on Sunday? By the way, a buddy of mine lives in Phoenix, says he cannot wait for the Super Bowl to come and go. I'm like, why? He's like, dude, it takes me like 45 minutes now to drive 15 miles in Arizona. Right now, not only do you have the Super Bowl Sunday and everybody there, the Phoenix Open's there. And the Phoenix Open, they got the galleries and all kinds of people walking around. So you got people there for a major golf tournament. You got people there for the Super Bowl. I mean, how many people are attracted to go to a Super Bowl in a warm weather locale? I mean, tons. I saw Johnny Lund is there. I saw his tweet earlier today. Jim Molay says, I know MF is making a lemon bundt cake. Are you really? You're making a lemon bundt cake? MF, I make a lemon bundt cake every Super Bowl. What is it? No, what is a bundt cake? That sounds awfully dry. It sounds really, really dry. Yeah, so Aussie Rule says right now on ESPN, GP2 failed physical, Dubs trade at risk. How much does that suck for not just the Warriors, but for James Wiseman? Now James Wiseman's got to come back. And a team that traded you that you knew didn't want you now has to take you back and you have to go back there. What if James Wiseman comes back to the Warriors and just starts playing like a madman? He just becomes just a beast and leads the Warriors to a title and winds up having a 15-year career in Golden State. That would be a turnaround. I'd love to see it. It'd be awesome. Jeffrey Bond. So is Wiseman coming back? Yes. Yes. That's what. Could you imagine? No, you're not getting GP2. Oh, and Wiseman's gone too. The double negative. Yeah, you're not getting the player you traded for, but the player that you traded, yeah, he's in Detroit. Yeah, he's staying there. Detroit will throw. I'll say this. Here's the question I would have. If you could go back to the original trade of, let's say that instead of rescinding the entire trade, they rescinded this portion of the trade and went back to the original trade, would you be happy with Saddiq Bey or James Wiseman? Because I would. I would do that trade in a second. Absolutely, I would do that trade. In some ways, I think Saddiq Bey, this is kind of one of the reasons. I mean, I wasn't predicting this. I wasn't predicting that he will fail his physical and it will blow up the trade. Could you imagine? I wasn't predicting this. But my whole point with I didn't like this trade is it seems like, one, you're giving up on Wiseman. You didn't find out if he could play, and now you're trading him. So his speculative future, if you had to bet right now, would you say that James Wiseman's value goes up or goes down in the future? Because I'll say this, both are entirely possible. There are people that think that he will wash out of the league and that he's going to be just a zero. And he's got bad knees and he doesn't have instincts and he can't rebound. He doesn't know how to play and he's soft and he's going to bounce out of the league. There are people that think that. If that's your thought, then the Warriors sold high, right? Because you think he's a crash and burn candidate. But I would say most people, if I had to guess, I would say most people would go the other way, that James Wiseman's value is actually going up and that the Warriors probably mishandled him and they didn't develop him. Delos failed, Kerr failed, and they didn't develop this player. But his value is going up, that he'll be worth more in the future to whomever team he's on than he is in the present. I think most people would go there and say that his value is going up, not down. Why? Because what did they get? They got Gary Payton, and I like Gary Payton, but my whole point was Gary Payton's 30 and his body's broken down. He didn't play very much this year. He had consistent injuries last year. And you're going to trade a 21-year-old, 7-foot, 260-pound center that you invested the second pick in the draft in a broken down guy who plays half the floor, who plays the defensive end of the floor, who's really, he can make a couple threes and he can dunk inside, but he had physical problems with the Warriors, and he's 30. There's mileage there. Not necessarily NBA mileage, but there's mileage there. He's 30. Realistically, if GP2 plays 3 more years in the NBA or 4 more years in the NBA and they're injury-filled years and then he's done, that would not shock me. If you said to me he's going to play 4 more years and he's never going to play a full season and he's going to have injuries consistently for the next 4 years and then he's going to be out of the league, I would say, yeah, that's about right. So that's why that trade seems so bad to me, because you're giving away. It's like trading a guy who has like 7 years of contractual control in baseball, like on July 31st for, a guy who's a free agent at the end of the year. So basically you just traded 7 years of cost certainty with maybe a top prospect for How many games are there between August and September? 30. So maybe you traded 7 years of baseball contractual control for somebody that you got 30 games out of. I mean, let's say Alexander Canario and Caleb Killian, who the Giants traded to the Cubs for Chris Bryant. Let's just say those guys were studs. I think Caleb Killian was the next freaking Roger Clemens, and the outfielder was Alexander Canario, became Sammy Sosa. I mean, and you got 30 games out of Chris Bryant, and then he walked in free agency. It would go down as like one of the worst trades of all time. Well, what if GP2, has a couple of years and James Wiseman becomes a monster, and he's 20, and he plays till he's like 36, and he's a staple in the NBA, running the floor and rebounding and blocking shots, and you drafted him second overall, and he plays 14 years longer than GP2. Yeah, that could look really bad. So all I'm saying is, I don't know how this trade, where they go back to. But the original trade was Wiseman to the Pistons for Bay. So do the Warriors have to bring Wiseman back? Or could they literally say the deal with Atlanta's off and Wiseman, or they keep their, would you rather have, if you could take this deal back, would you rather take Wiseman back, have the number twos that you got, or have Saddiq Bey? I'm taking Saddiq Bey. Why? Because the Warriors need help now. Steph Curry's in his window now. If you don't help him win a title, that's negligence on the part of the Warriors, all of them. So you need to help yourself now in the buyout market. Saddiq Bey could help you now. I would rather have Saddiq Bey at this point than GP2. I would. Why? Because Saddiq Bey's young. He's got great basketball intellect. He can play 3, 4. He can make big shots. You know what Saddiq Bey is? He's another rotation player on a team that needs another rotation player. That's what he is. He's another good young core piece for a team that needs a dependable, good young core piece. So all I'm saying is if if it came back to, hey, you can have Wiseman back, you can have those picks, or you could have the original Saddiq Bey trade. Here, Pistons, here's James Wiseman. I'll take Saddiq Bey. Thank you. Thanks for coming. And if I mean, I don't understand how that works, by the way. I don't know how that deal worked originally, because I guess maybe the Pistons are under the cap. Maybe that's how it works. Because Wiseman makes $9 million. Saddiq Bey makes nothing. He makes like $2 million because he was picked in the 20s and he's still on his rookie deal. He might make $3 million. He doesn't make a lot of money. They don't line up, is my point. In the NBA, the salaries typically have to line up. The Pistons must be under the cap and able to take James Wiseman and only deal away Saddiq Bey, obviously, because the deal was made. But I'd rather have Saddiq Bey. I'd rather have Saddiq Bey than GP2 and his broken down 30-year-old defensive self. And I like GP2. But I'd rather have Saddiq Bey. Saddiq Bey and Jonathan Kuminga could be an outstanding forward tandem for years. I mean, think about those two skill sets. Kuminga's got unbelievable hops. He's 6'9". He could be your small ball 5. The Warriors, it sounds like, are disgusted with Draymond Green long term, and that they've maybe, I don't know if they've agreed that he's walking away, but it sounds like he's at least discussed leaving at the end of the year. If you could replace, Draymond Green with somebody, wouldn't you want Saddiq Bey? I would. I'll say that. I'd take that in a second. Warriors better be active either way. Warriors better be active in this buyout market. And, people talking about the buyout market, you heard Grant say, stay away from Dwayne Dedmon. Serge Ibaka, I think, is fool's gold at this point. He's 33, but the mileage, and he's rarely played this year for Milwaukee. Now, if you could get the player that he was 2 years ago before the knees started to fail him, it's one thing, but I think he's done. I mean, it's like, trading signing a guy like Serge Ibaka at this point would be like buying a car that has lots of miles on it that's been parked in somebody's driveway most of the year, and they drive it like once a month, and now you're going to use it as your commuter car. I wouldn't do that. That's a bad one because that car's going to break down. And this car is going to break down if the Warriors want to play him significant minutes. Kevin Love's interesting because Kevin Love can shoot and Kevin Love can pass. And, that he's interesting. I mean, God knows the Warriors have talked Kevin Love for a long time. They've, the Klay Thompson for Kevin Love thing was a gift that thankfully the Warriors didn't make that trade. But at this point, he's still a credible rebounder. He's still a good 3-point shooter. He's shooting 35% from three this year. So, to me, that's a guy. I mean, for a team that values floor spacing, the one thing that Porter and Bielitsa gave you last year that you have not replaced is floor spacing. They created a lot of space. Kevin Love would help create that space. I'd be interested in him. I'd be interested in Nerlens Noel because I think he's a rim protector. I mean, this guy was third in total blocks 2 seasons ago with the Knicks. He's not old. He's had injuries, but he's only 28. And you're talking about a 6'11" big man with a 7'4" wingspan. He could protect the rim. And, having that kind of a piece to your puzzle would be valuable. So Nerlens Noel, I'm interested in. Kevin Love, I'm interested in. And I'm really interested if they can't make this trade in Reggie Jackson. That to me should, if you want to pivot off of GP2, what do? Pivot to Reggie Jackson. Reggie Jackson's a good two-way player. He can play on the ball. He can play off the ball. You've got Steph Curry. That's your advantage. And the beauty of Curry and Poole is those guys don't have to play on the ball. And obviously Clay, I mean, he plays better off the ball. Curry can play off the ball. I mean, you could go to a smaller lineup in the playoffs and let Reggie Jackson handle the point from time to time. He's a good defender. He's like 6'4". He's young. He's in his physical prime. I mean, people forget. Go look at those numbers from last year. Go look at what Reggie Jackson did in the playoffs last year with the Clips. I think he scored like 17 a game in the playoffs last year. So Kevin F says Reggie Jackson overlaps with Poole. I get it. But you heard Kerr describe Klay Thompson as more of a 3-4. The Warriors, Kerr never goes big. He always goes small. He believes if you go small, you can get away with it if you play well. And so I could see, Draymond and Kuminga could be your at least your small ball fours. Looney could be your small ball 5. Heck, you could go with Green as your small ball 5 and Kuminga as your small ball 4. And then you have Reggie Jackson there. You could play some combination of Clay and Steph and Poole and DiVincenzo. I'll say this. I don't want I don't know about you guys. I don't want Ty Jerome playing big minutes in the playoffs. I don't. I know Frank likes Ty Jerome. I know there are people out there that like Ty Jerome. I know Kerr loves Ty Jerome. What Kerr really loves is having a dependable second ball handler. And that's what Ty Jerome represents. But Reggie Jackson's a better version of that. I'd rather have Ty Jerome in a pinch. I mean, come on, let's be honest here. You're going for the NBA title. You want to lean on Ty Jerome or you want to lean on Reggie Jackson? I'll lean on Reggie Jackson every day. And he's a two-way player. And he's going to get bought out. And he's in his prime. I mean, that's not your typical buyout old guy. There's your rotation player. There's your defender. Now, he's not been quite the same player defensively as he was coming out of BC, but he's also a way better offensive player than he was. Go look at some of those games from last spring. And when the Clippers, when Reggie Jackson was going for 17 a game in the playoffs, there were some really excellent performances there. So if I could reverse it, I'd want Sadiq Bey. And if I could go get a rotation player outside of a big, I'd go for Reggie Jackson. All right. I'm going to cut this one a little short tonight because we're an hour and 14 minutes in, but it's my son's birthday dinner. We got a little birthday dinner for my son Benjamin, who turns 17 today. Great kid. And, as anybody who's a father knows, man, you're in love with all your kids. And this kid's an incredible kid. So happy 17th to Benjamin, and we're gonna get to that. Thanks to all the sponsors. Thanks to all the thanks to Pig and a Pickle and all of you in the chat. Looking at the view total or the subscriber base total at this point, take one last check at it. We are at 13,629. So hit like and subscribe. Hitting like helps the algorithm, helps more people find us. Jeffrey Bond says, happy birthday, Benjamin. There you go. Kevin F., happy birthday. Look at that. People coming through the chat. Yeah, Benjamin's a hell of a kid, a really good baseball player, too, in my mind. Check him out, Northgate High School. But no, really, really happy with everybody and on the growth of the channel. 13,629 subs. So if you're one of the people in the chat right now and you've yet to sub, if you sub, that will just basically alert you every time that we go live. And so, like, if you're a big Kings fan and you're a sub, you saw Grant Napear on there today. Next time Grant pops on the show in a few weeks and we talk more about the NBA playoff picture and that kind of thing, you'll get a little alert that just says Larry Krueger's going live with Grant Napear on the Krueg Show. So that helps the algorithm. Subscribe, that helps the subscriber base. And if you want to be a channel member, we picked up a couple new members today as well. It's like $4.99 a month. I did find out the details on the t-shirts. The t-shirts are $25 and it's going to be $10 for shipping and handling. So basically, they're $35, and I've got the people's names who want them. And you can just pay me on Venmo, and I'll put that out there on for those of you individually. Since I've got your information, I'll put that out there. But yeah, we're going to handle it through Venmo if possible. And people who don't have Venmo, we'll have to figure that out. But anyway, they are available, and they're $35. $25 for the shirt, $10 for the shipping. It seems like a lot to me as well, but sadly, that's what it costs to ship a t-shirt in February of 2023. And people say, and Mark Gray said, click the notification bell. That's right. Click that notification bell. Jeffrey Bond says, shout out Northgate. All right, that's going to do it for us. If anything breaks in the world of sports, we will be going live. Giants, Niners, Warriors. What's the latest on the trade that is what is the latest on this? We probably should take one more look at this before we check out. What is the latest? Okay, so the latest is just that the trade's in jeopardy. So there you go. This is the story, and we didn't go live with the story. It actually happened while we were on the air in the midst of our Grant Napear interview. But Shams Charania of The Athletic says the 4-team trade that sent Gary Payton II back to the Warriors is in serious jeopardy. I added the serious due to a failed physical. Payton did not make his Blazers debut, of course, this year until January the 2nd. He had off-season core surgery, and according to reports, he's failed his physical. And the injury is expected to keep him sidelined for 3 more months, even though he played in the Blazers' last game against the Warriors. So obviously the Blazers were trying to showcase him in that game. It was also reported that the Blazers did not disclose that GP2 was receiving Toradol shots to deal with the pain. So he took a bunch of Toradol shots to get out there, and nobody told the Warriors. So this has the trade, which includes 4 teams in jeopardy. Also involved in the deal is Kevin Knox, who, was going from Detroit to Portland. James Wiseman, who was going from Golden State to Detroit. And Sadiq Bey, who was going from Detroit to Atlanta. The Warriors could wind up saving $131 million in salary and luxury tax payments by moving Wiseman, have until Saturday to go through with the trade. That's interesting. And that's the latest detail. The Warriors have until Saturday to go through with the trade. And with it being reported after the trade that Peyton didn't want to be in Portland, this could get very, very interesting. Bring me Saddiq Bey. I know the Hawks would be like, hell no. But, it's interesting. I bet you Joe Lacob would take Saddiq Bey back to lose the 131. I bet you he would take the second-round picks to get Wiseman off his books and save that $131 million. So now it'll be very interesting to see what happens here and how motivated the Warriors are. Maybe the Warriors are so motivated to, because GP2 is also under contract. He's not a free agent at the end of the year. He just signed, I think, a 4-year deal. He's got 3 years left. So you could make this trade, not get the benefit of GP2, still have the $131 million in savings, and then just keep Peyton on your roster going forward. You'd look bad because you just traded for an injured player that can't help you. But maybe then you would be able to go sign a player or two out of the buyout market to take that player's place. I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts here. I'd like to have GP2. I think I'd rather have Saddiq Bey. But that's so weird. What I can't picture is Wiseman coming back here. Seems like they wouldn't do that to him. Like they would figure out a way to reconfigure this deal. But as I asked Grant, do they have the flexibility to do just that, reconfigure the deal? I don't know. I don't know if they can. And he didn't know either. Digital Drew says, if your kid plays video games, if my kid didn't play video games, I'd probably take him to the doctor. Doctor, what's wrong with him? Doc, you're never going to believe it. He doesn't play video games. He doesn't play video games? What the heck? Lock him up. Oh, my God. Get him to the hospital as soon as possible. There's something wrong with that kid. How old is he? He's 17. Does he show apathy? Yeah. Does he talk back? Yeah. Does he play video games? No. He doesn't play video games. That's funny. Digital Drew. If your kid plays video games, Larry, let me know. I got something for him. He does play video games. He does. Digital Drew is like Mortal Kombat video monster. Yeah, he does play video games, Digital Drew. And he would love anything from you. That's for sure. And we got this one from Glenn Dempsey. He says, happy birthday, Ben. Ask your dad for a few Benjamins for your birthday. Yeah. There you go. Hey, Dad. I've got 3 boys and 1 daughter. And this is my second son. And he's a phenomenal kid. So, all right. Good luck to the Warriors. Good luck to Bob Myers. Bring me Saddiq Bey. Come on, Bob. Bring me Saddiq Bey. Oh, how great would Saddiq Bey be in a Warrior uniform? Oh, Saddiq Bey.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah, we ain't never fall back. Hold our ground when we